All right. Quickly introducing ourselves. I'm Agam. I lead sales for Darwinbox in the western part of India. Joined today by the head HR of supply chain and HR operations, Mr. Shyam Pai, with me. We're going to be talking about the transformation that we've driven at More Retail, and we're typically going to be speaking a little bit more about Darwinbox for those folks who don't know about us. Uh, Quickly introducing Darwinbox, as the name suggests, we're inspired by Darwin's theory of evolution. Speaks about survival of the fittest, talks about the fact that humans are ever evolving. Now, these are the very human beings who are powering organizational growth. So whenever you make a tech decision, it becomes extremely important for you to keep in mind not just your current context, your current pain points, but also the future, because the future never remains the same, right? With that very appreciation for change, Darwinbox came into existence back in 2015. And since then, today we cater to over 700 global customers across 90 plus countries, across 16 different industries. So that's the kind of cloud that we bring to the table. That's the kind of experience that we bring to the table. Today, we're the only company out of Asia to have made it to Gartner's Magic Quadrant. We're also the youngest and the fastest company to make it to Gartner's Magic Quadrant. There's also something called Gartner's Peer Insights. So Gartner Peer Insights is a forum where clients who've experienced different platforms, different enterprise-grade applications, give their feedback on multiple parameters. It could be on the buying experience, on the product capabilities, in terms of implementation capabilities, and so on and so forth. And today we're rated highest globally. We're ahead of the companies that we really looked up to in our journey. And that's also been quite a humbling experience because we know that, hey, we're on the right track, but there's so much to do, right? What is it that we bring to the table? It's the entire life cycle of an employee, right? It begins with aspects of your manpower planning, taking that further to your entire recruitment. How do you enable a decentralized setup, right? Can you empower your frontline workers to go ahead and typically ensure a backfill is done dusted? Can you go ahead, take interviews on the shop floor and make an offer, right? Without dependency on HR ops. So those are use cases that we've been able to solve for. Can you typically create a QR code at the point of entry when somebody is walking in for an interview, right? So that the entire process could be digitized. Can you ensure that the onboarding experience is seamless, right? So those are use cases that we solve for. There are a plethora of things, and Shyam is going to speak about those in details. But essentially, it's the entire life cycle of an employee that we cover. Now, there are a couple of things that we do very well as compared to global players, right? We cover the length and breadth of all employee-related transactions. It's one platform, one mobile application that allows you to typically drive adoption across the board. I think driving adoption becomes extremely critical, especially when you are in a decentralized setup. You need to give relevant accesses so that the folks on the ground have access to relevant information, they can take better decisions, and at the same time ensuring control where required. There are a couple of things that we do very, very well. We believe that HR stakeholders have great ideas because HR stakeholders want to bring in new changes, right? But whenever they want to make a change to a process, to a workflow, to a process flow, they're always dependent on technology, right? They're dependent on the vendor to go ahead and make the change for them. So we realized this when we started off. We realized this at a very early stage. We realized that our HR stakeholders are really pained, right? For them to turn around a small change used to take months. And at the background, there was a concept of a change request, right? You want to make a change, raise the change request. We'll go ahead, test the feasibility of that, come back with a long bill, which you'll go around running for additional budgets. By the time you get people convinced, get the budgets approved, you come back to give them a BRD document, they build that feature, you test, deploy. Time has really passed by, right? Things have really changed. So we understood this at a very early stage. We realized that, hey, we've got to make our immediate custodians, the HR stakeholders, stronger in their ecosystem, right? They should be able to make these changes on the go themselves. Why do they have to be dependent on anybody, right? So what we did was we built in functionalities on the front end. It's a low code, no code application, which allows you to go ahead, make use of the configuration options within the application, for you to go ahead and make these changes, right? It's very easy to do. Apart from that, we ensured that we solve the problem of adoption, right? You invest in technology, if people are not using it, essentially there's no point. The third bit is something that we partner with other folks for, which is around what are the processes that you're exactly configuring into the application. The product is as good as it's been implemented, right? You could take the best product in the world, and personally, I've been through so many evaluations of Darwinbox, right? What we get evaluated for doesn't translate into what gets implemented eventually. I really fail to understand where the ball gets dropped. But I have my own assumption on that. Whenever you're putting together a team to drive an implementation, right, it's extremely important to have some folks in the team who have the future in mind, who've got the organization context as well, so that they're able to make those decisions and essentially take the organization forward, right? So that should show in the way you've defined your processes, the way you've tweaked your policies to ensure that your organization is actually moving forward. So that's something that we've done fairly well. Apart from making it fairly integrable, there are multiple layers that we've built on the platform to ensure an elevated experience. But I'll quickly move forward. Lots of clients, our journey started with companies which were scaling at a very fast pace. The deliveries, the Swiggies of the world, right? Now these guys had distributed workforce. They would trade a BU, shut it down. They would have a lot of employee movements. So the core really got tested and the product really grew over time. And with then, we started getting mandates from large organizations, very stable. And from there on, there's been no looking back. In the retail space, we've done some really good work as well. We're here to speak about one such case study with More Retail. I remember the first time I got a call from them. I have been through so many evaluations, and in this particular one, they were so clear. They were very clear about what they were looking to achieve, right? They were clear that their frontline managers needed to be empowered. They wanted to run a decentralized setup and at the same time ensure that things are moving at a quicker pace. Clarity of thought, putting the right set of team members into the table really helped us propel the entire implementation. We achieved a go live in 5 months' time, and they're spread across 900 stores. So that's a kind of scale of operation that we managed in 5 months flat. So it's over to you, Shyam. It's been quite a case study. We'd love for you to share it with everybody here.
Thanks, Agam, for inviting me to share the case study of More. I would, all of you know More Retail. We are a south, east, north, not so much in the west, but we have about 900 odd stores across the country, 900 plus stores, and we are expanding. This is some quick stats about us. Yeah, so 5,000 crores, 900 plus stores, 13 states, distributed workforce, the stores being managed by very junior store managers, frontline managers, right? So a lot of challenges with respect to managing such a distributed workforce. And in the last almost about 3 to 4 years, we have embarked on a transformation journey, and we've sort of been able to increase our store count. But the real question is, if we have to really, really scale this up, what is the big one thing that we need to do? And clearly for us, the answer was empower the frontline managers. And this empowerment of frontline managers is something that we have been wanting to do for some time now, but we couldn't have done this if not for some technology that is implemented well. And Agam put it rightly, that you can have the best of best technology, but if it's not backed up by a clear thought process, good process framework, it's going to fail. So we spent a lot of time to really think about what our problem was. And I've just summarized some of the challenges that we faced and why we went to Darwinbox with these challenges. So, a lot of manual processes. I mean, you have everything on the HRMS, but there are still Excel sheets, right? There are still spreadsheets that you refer, pivots that you make, etc., and that takes a huge amount of time. In a distributed workforce, getting that sheet across to the last frontline manager is a challenge. Um, Difficulty in performance tracking and reporting. Now, there is an action that needs to be taken in the store, but by the time the store manager gets to know about his information, it's too late. 15 days into the month, after the month. So there is no action that he's taking immediately. So we wanted this data to be flowing real time to the store manager. Very fragmented workflows. We used to work on emails, WhatsApps, other means, and this meant that if we had to audit something, it was almost impossible. A lot of time spent on digging what went where and tracking and chasing for that. Um, I always talk about this. There is a lot of data that retail generates, whether it's in business or in HR, but there is no cohesive information. Data is not information. Data has to be converted to information to make meaningful decisions. And that's something which was a challenge for us. Last but not the least, I think the ownership of the line managers, if they had to drive, I mean, I'll give you an example of a couple of metrics that we track. We track something known as work hours adherence, right? I think the previous forum panelists spoke about well-being. For us, well-being is really what matters to the employee. If somebody is a minimum wage employee getting 12,000 rupees a month, the biggest thing that matters to him is what time did I get to the store? What time am I getting out of the store, right? And we want to be fair with our employees. So we have work hour adherence as one of the KPIs, and this particular information does not get to the store manager until the end of the month because there is a lot of data that's being pulled, formats, spreadsheets, formulas, etc., and necessary action is delayed. So when we say that a store manager does not take ownership for the people metrics, we were reflecting back and asking ourselves, what are we doing in order to empower the store manager to take that action on time? And we found out that we are not passing the information soon enough for him to do that. So these were some of the challenges. We had some HR transformation goals. One of the biggest goals for us was to have a seamless employee experience, right, throughout the life cycle. I mean, seamless experience throughout the life cycle of the employee, right from the time that somebody applies for the job in the front end until the time that the person gets his full and final settlement, right? So we wanted a seamless experience, and this was not possible through manual fragmented processes. A highly enabled line, we didn't want the store manager to depend on any of us back in the so-called head office to send some information to him in order to make a decision. We wanted to democratize data and information, and that's a primary goal. I think we are still making some progress on that. We are not done yet. Enabling quick onboarding and skills training for employees. Having everything on a platform where the employee is able to access at will when he has the time. Most of the skills in a retail store like ours is gained through really on-the-job work. I mean, the work experience that the person has, and a lot of skills are picked up. But there are some parts which they have to go through, like for example, e-learning on let's say for example, POSH or code of conduct, ethics, etc. and we enabled all of that on the platform. Um, I've already spoken about analytics and insights. What we also wanted to do is get away from all the day-to-day transactions completely, so that the core HR team focuses on real business issues. And for me, real business issues are: how do we do a good org design? How do we focus on role effectiveness? Um, how do we help the business on productivity improvement initiatives? And we've done a lot of work on productivity in the last 4 or 5 years, progressively, and have been able to really bring down our cost of doing business. Staffing models, talent, succession, growth. I think that's the focus areas that we want to get into, rather than just processing transactions and being happy about running an HR organization that is effective on just processes, right? So some of the things that we have been able to do is through Darwinbox. It's one platform, simplified. We have integrations with a number of other partners that we use for background verification, etc. It's very seamless. We don't send information to the background verification partner. It just gets triggered. All the verification happens and then comes back to Darwinbox, and people are able to see what's happened with that particular case and move ahead. Agam spoke about it, workflows. Now, we've always had a problem with configuring workflows on HRMS systems. I think it's been really easy for us to configure workflows here. Of course, there are some use cases where even Darwinbox hasn't really encountered, and there are so many such things that come up. And the good thing is that we have a team and we have an account manager who we can go back to and say, hey, look, this is a real problem that we have. It needs a solution. They are very happy to come back and help us on these things. I think this is a retail forum, and goes without saying that there are a number of SNE, shops and establishments, leaves, etc. related requirements in every state. All of that, if it has to be configured, needs to work well and stand the test of time, and stand scrutiny from auditors, labor, etc. It has to be enabled on a platform like this. We've been doing that for about 1 year now, and a lot of things have been eased on that front. Yeah. One or two things that I think we introduced for frontline managers is the performance management system, which is completely online now. We have about 2,000 people who went through a performance cycle just recently, and we've had very good reviews about the process itself. It's all designed on the system. The right through to calibrating the ratings, getting the bell curves right, completing this whole process on the system, and then submitting it to the compensation platform, which is called as Comport, which we use today through Darwinbox, and getting the increments, the letters, and everything through to the employee is almost seamless. And I think we've gotten this far. The big goal for us ahead is how do we use the time that we saved from all these transactions into real business enabling and effectiveness work. So thanks, Agam, and I think
Thank you, Shyam.
it's been a pleasure to talk about this case. We hope to partner along the long journey, and there are many things that I think are possible through this partnership. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Shyam. Thanks a lot.